Hi guys, welcome. I'm really excited to be here. I haven't been here in a long time and haven't done a video for my YouTube in a really long time, and I've been feeling lately like I wanted to give you guys an update on my story and my journey and my path and what's going on and what God is doing in my life and all of that. So if you're here for the first time, my name is Jennifer Edwards, and I did a video back in May of last year about how I left New Age and turned my life over to Christ, and then I kind of like did a few more videos and stopped. If you're returning, welcome back. If you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for this update, this is for you. So I am not a good editor. I'm gonna go ahead and preface this. Not a good editor, so I really don't know how to do it. So I am gonna do my best to get through this video without a lot of pauses and without a lot of like awkwardness. But just know if there is, I'm probably gonna leave it in the video because I don't know how to edit it out. I'm not very good at that kind of stuff, and this is just gonna be from my heart, and I ask God to give me the wisdom and the words to say and all of that, and so we're just gonna dive in. So in May of last year, I did my testimonial. I did it live because of this reason of editing. I did it live, and I started a company that at that same time called Made New. And the Lord had been working in my heart for a long time. So just a little bit of a backstory. I was raised in Christianity. I was raised to be a Christian, Baptist. I went to church camp. I went to Bible school. I was I was all about church when I was growing up. And I went to Christian, grade school. I went to a Christian college for a couple of years, Liberty University. I did all of these things. And then when I turned like 31 or something like that, I met a man. I hadn't been married yet. I desperately wanted to be married, and I was idolizing marriage. And I married a man who was a PhD in metaphysics. And I fell for those lies, and I fell into that. I'm like, well, maybe this is the way, because I wasn't getting my way in the other way. In Christianity, I wasn't getting my way. So maybe this is the way. And I went down that path of New Age spirituality. And I was married for 6 years, got divorced. Clearly was not aligned. I got divorced, and I went on a journey, and I got divorced. I left my husband 10 years ago. And so, during the course of 2014, I was in the process of divorce, and then I'm on my own journey, right? So I'm not married to him anymore. And I didn't want my faith to be based upon him. So I just kept being spiritual New Age and kept going deeper and deeper and deeper. I didn't want people to say, I was in my ego. I didn't want people to say, well, it was only because of him that she went this way, and now that she is not with him anymore, she's back to Christianity. Like I wanted my experience of God, and I wanted that to all be authentic from my heart and from my personal experience, right? So I was like, I'm not going back to Christianity, and I went deeper and deeper into spiritual New Age. And in 2018, 2019, I really dove deep, and I really got into, spiritual New Age practices and principles. I was addicted to astrology and human design. I was addicted to that. There was just something about that drew me in. I had tarot cards, I had a pendulum, I had many crystals. I did a lot of, I received a lot of readings from not tarot card, but from astrologers. I only received like 1 or 2 readings from a psychic. I wasn't really into that too much. What else? Oh, I did a lot of healing. I put in quotes. If you're a part of the New Age spiritual world, healing is like a big thing. I did that. I was on the healing hamster wheel of New Age for 5 years and sunk thousands upon thousands of dollars in time and tears into healing. I did that, and I finally, so what began to happen in 2020, I came home to Southern Illinois, where I'm from, and I I stayed with my parents for a little while because COVID was happening. I didn't know what I was doing. I hadn't lived in Southern Illinois for probably close to 17 years at that point. And so I was just like, well, am I going to stay? Am I going to go? I really didn't know what I was going to do. So I stayed with my parents for a while. And then I got this house. And in 2021, my cousin had a baby. And so we did a baby dedication at a church in town. And so I went, and I would go to church for family things and for special occasions. I would go for Christmas and Easter and those kinds of things. But I wasn't going on a regular basis. I had no interest whatsoever in going to church on a regular basis. So anyway, I go to church that Sunday to this baby dedication, and I was touched by the Holy Spirit. And I was like, whoa, I felt something. And that was the start. And my mom and dad had been praying for me since the day I left Christianity and I went on this other walk. My mom and dad and my grandparents faithfully prayed for me and so many other people. So anyway, you can't get through a testimony without crying if it's really touched your heart. So I was touched that day, and it was actually around my birthday of that year, 2021. And a couple weeks later, my aunt, who goes to that church, asked me, do you want to go to church again? And I said, you know what? Yeah, I think I do. And I did. I went back, and I started going back every once in a while. At first, it was like, every couple of weeks, it seemed like I would go. And by August of that year, so my birthday's June 28th. So it was June that June like 20 something, 26 or something like that. So then by August of that year, I was pretty much going for like every Sunday. And so anyway, I go and I am going consistently, and this is 2021. And then in 2022, I was still going, but I wasn't really changing my life. I was still on this healing hamster wheel, and I was still struggling. I was really struggling with some things. In 2022, I made a massive mistake. I invested a lot of money in a spiritual mentor, which turned out to be a complete and utter disaster. And it was kind of like the start of God really just breaking me down to say, listen, if you're not going to get this any other way, I'm going to have to really get in here. So that's what began to happen in May of that year. I had a complete breakdown, and the Lord, when you have a breakdown and your heart just really breaks open, the Lord can start to get in. And that's really what happened. So fast forward to later on in 2022, I had some other disappointments come to me in 2022, in the summer of 2022, massive disappointments, and it hurt me deeply. So then in late 2022, I have a friend who I do a Wednesday night Bible study with. If you're interested. We don't really have a website yet or anything like that. So you just reach out to me if you're interested it's live, it's a Zoom call. It's every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. We do it for free, and we just invite you to come to this Bible study. If you're interested, please reach out and let me know, and I will send you the information. Right now, we're very informal. Anyway, she reached out to me, and she's like, I had a experience with Jesus Christ. Like, I have given my life to Christ. And we were like New Age buddies, and we used to do live streams together every single day, especially in 2020. We would do live streams together, and really we were driving home some of the things that were happening politically in the world and all of that. And she was like, I had an experience of Christ, and I've completely left all of that. And she said, I'm gonna do this show, and she's like, I really feel God telling me that you're supposed to be a part of it, but you can't be New Age and be a part of the show. And she's like, you gotta clean up your act. You gotta take down your sorry guys, you gotta take down your videos and stuff like that are New Age, because you can't walk this gray line. And you know, and I was like, okay, God, you need to deal with me on that, because I'm not ready to take this stuff down. I'm not, like, that was my livelihood. So I made money as a coach, and I didn't have any other job. I made money as a coach. And my job was, it was steeped in spiritual new age. And, you know, I had hundreds of videos here on YouTube that were about twin flames and all this stuff and relationships, and it was all new age stuff. I had thousands of posts on Instagram, all new age stuff. I had thousands of posts on Facebook, all new age stuff. And that's how I got my clients. That's how I marketed. That's how I shared with the world what I was doing. And that's how people came to me as a client. And so being told, like, you're going to have to shut this stuff down, I was like, whoa, no, I don't think I can do that. So I started out doing things not from the right place. I started out doing things to get something, not because I was doing it from my heart. So I took down my YouTube. I took down most of my videos from YouTube, and it was really difficult for me to do, because that's where most of my clients came from. It was so super difficult for me to do, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it. And it wasn't from my heart because I felt God's conviction. It was because I wanted to be a part of the show. And I was like, if I take it down, I can be a part of this show, because that's going to help me get clients. It was like that selfish, you guys. It was like from that place. It was, but you know what? God uses it all for good. You know, he does. He uses it all for good. So even though my heart wasn't in the right place, he did use it all for good. And I'm super grateful for that. Anyway, so I took down that stuff, and I started on this process. And my pastor's wife, who's my mentor, Debbie, she had started to kind of take me under her wing and start to disciple me in her amazing way. Oh my gosh. I'm so grateful for this woman in my life. You know, you guys, there's only certain people, and God uses certain people to reach you. And you have to be so grateful for those people. There's not very many people that could have reached me, and this woman could, and she has. And she's been an instrument for the Lord in my life. And I'm so grateful for her. Anyway, let me take a breath so that I can get back to myself here a second. So Debbie had started to minister to me and take me under her wing. And God told me in December of 2022 that you're meant to work with her one-on-one. And she's my pastor's wife. And I was like, ooh, like if I work with her one-on-one, like that is really dedicating my life to the Lord. And that's really being vulnerable and letting her see some really ugly parts of myself. And I don't think that I'm ready for that. I'm not ready for that. I can't. And I'll tell you, when the Lord tells you to do something, you have to be obedient to that, because if you're not obedient to it, he will break you down until you are obedient to it, because God wants the best for you, right? He's like out there wanting the best for you. And here I was over here trying to do the best on my own flesh, in my own way. And I'm trying my hardest to do the best. And God's over here going, I have the best over here. If you would just surrender to me, I will show you a path that is beyond your wildest dreams. But you have to surrender all of this other stuff. Like, you cannot take this with you to where I'm showing you to go. You know, and it goes back to the Israelites and the story of the Israelites and the story of the promised land. The promised land is over here with God. And the Israelites were over here grumbling and complaining and trying so hard and spinning their wheels on a hamster wheel, and it never working out. And God finally getting a hold of them and saying, no, it's this way. And if you will let go, I will deliver you into this promised land. And so the Lord was speaking this to me, and I was being disobedient. I was just like, no, I can do it. I'm going to do it on my own. So I said no to that. And then in January of 2023, Debbie reaches out to me and several other single women in the church. Actually, not all of them were single. She reaches out to several other women in the church and says, God told me to start this Bible study. So we start meeting, and I'm thinking, well, maybe this is what God meant, and I'm supposed to do this. Maybe this is what God meant. So, because see, in a group, you can still not be vulnerable. In a group, you can still hide. In a group, you can still pretend. And so anyway, I'm in this group, and we're meeting on Saturdays, and we open it up to more women. We open it up, and actually, that whole dynamic shifts and changes. And, I'm going on Saturdays to this group, and I still have my toes dipped in spiritual new age. And I do one last ditch effort in my coaching business, and I launched a program in March of last year. And I'm so excited about this program. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is it. This is it. This is going to be the anointed program. This is going to be the program that blazes me forward and all of this stuff. And I launched this program, and it was like, it was a disaster. It was so bad. I attracted very unaligned women who didn't like each other. It was terrible. Like, one person didn't want to be on the calls because of this other woman in the group, and it was a disaster. And I've never had that happen before. I've always had a very, even though I wasn't serving God, I always had a very cohesive group, like, a group of women that genuinely liked each other and wanted to be friends, even outside of things. And hello, Kitty wants to be a part of this, I guess. So anyway, this group was a disaster. It was so terrible. And I was like, oh my gosh. All right, God. All right, you're getting my attention here. I had people want refunds and everything. It was just, oh my gosh. So I stopped, and I was like, okay, God, this is my livelihood. I'm really scared. I don't know what to do. I don't have a job. I don't know how to navigate these waters. And what in the world? Oh, okay. Anyway, I don't know how to navigate these waters. And so this was about April of last year. And this was when I decided, okay, I'm going to start meeting with Debbie. And we started meeting one-on-one. And I reached out to her and I said, Debbie, I don't understand what's going on with my business. I don't understand. Like, I'm not attracting clients. It's just a disaster. And she said, okay, well, since you opened up the door for me to give you feedback, I'm going to give you feedback. And she said, what are you selling with these pictures? She's like, Jen, you're a beautiful woman, but what are you selling with these pictures? What are you selling when you're saying these things? Who are you promoting? You can't serve God and man. You have to serve God alone. And when you serve God alone, then things will change. But you're serving God and man, and you can't walk both roads. There's only one road. And I was like, oh, okay. And I began that process of really cleaning up and being made new. Okay, so being made new didn't happen overnight. And being made new was also not an easy journey. And a friend of mine, Lorna, who is on my YouTube channel here, giving her testimony, we were talking about this a few weeks ago, and we meet, it seems like every other week or so, just to be a support and sisterhood with one another. And she said, nobody's talking about how this is not easy to make this transition. So she's like, I see like these testimonies online and they're like, oh, I gave my life to Christ and everything is great. Like, no, it's really difficult. And it's been really difficult, and it's been difficult for her as well, as we die to our flesh and we die to all of these things that defined us for so many years. And we become more like Christ, and we're being made more like Christ, and we're being healed through Christ. We're being healed of these things, these deficits that we had, and I had a massive deficit around trust. And trust bled into every area of my life. I didn't trust the Lord. I didn't trust men. So I couldn't have a relationship with men that was healthy. This is why I'm not married, is because I haven't been able to trust the Lord, and I haven't been able to trust men. I haven't been able to trust the Lord with my partner, with sending me a partner. And, this is something that he's really been dealing with me about, and really I've been praying about. And like, okay, Lord, I am. And I feel a renewed spirit around that. I really feel a renewed spirit around, okay, God, this is your job. I want what you have for me. And for the longest time, in that area of my life, in the area of career, I didn't feel like God had my best interest. I was afraid that if I gave it all to God, that I would marry some ugly guy that I didn't like and I wasn't attracted to, and that I would be like sent to the mission field in a faraway place that I didn't want to go to, but because God called me to it, I went there. And that was what I was afraid of. I wasn't trusting that God made me, and God has made you so specific for the job he has for you. And he has made you so specific, and he has made me so specific that the person that he sends for me to love for the rest of my life, and for him to love me for the rest of my life, my partner, whoever that's going to be, I don't know who it's going to be, whoever that's going to be is going to be perfect for me. And I'm going to be perfect for him. And I don't have to fear, and I don't have to doubt that it is all going to be good and right and all of that. So lots of work there. Anyway, over the course of the summer, I took down 3,500 posts from Instagram. I took down close to that many on Facebook. Facebook's a little bit different to remove things. So basically what I do for that is I've removed what I could, and like the big blaring things. And then if I didn't catch something, I go into my memories every day and I'm like, oh yeah, this needs to go. So I take stuff down when I go into my memories. Yeah, but Instagram I cleaned up. YouTube I cleaned up. I closed my coaching business. I took my last client in May of last year. And finished up with that client at the end of June. And I was like really freaking out. I was like, oh my gosh, Lord, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And my family has had to help me. And they have been so incredibly supportive and so incredibly generous. And I know that not everybody has a family that can, first of all, and that will. I know that. But here's what I want to share with you, is that if you don't have a family that is supportive of you, and that can support you, then God will send that support in other ways. God is your provider, and God will always send you that support. And it may come in unexpected ways, and it may come from unexpected people, but God will always send it, okay? So I want you to trust that. So if you're sitting here thinking, but I don't have a family like that will help me through this part of the journey, I promise you, God will help you. So I have a family that's helping, but I have a God that appointed my family to help, right? So God is going to appoint whomever it is, however it is, to help you through that part. And who knows how that journey is going to look? Who knows who that miracle is going to come through? But God will appoint it. Okay, so I want you to trust that. I want you to trust that God has your back, and God is always going to take care of you, right? My cat is playing with a straw over here, so if you're hearing like some commotion in the background, that's what's happening. Okay, so fast forward to being made new. It was a very difficult journey. It was not easy. And I had to work through a lot of fear, so I had a lot of fear around money and feeling supported financially, and that God would come through for me. I did not trust that at all. And I had to die to that every single day. And I went through a lot of fear and a lot of really discouraging moments, and God would always come through. And I have very supportive people around me. My landlords are very supportive, and they're Christian people, and they're being very understanding. And, I've been late, like I'm up to date on my rent, but I'm late, like meaning like I'm late by a few days this month. Like I'm caught up, but I'm late this month, right? Kind of thing. Because I'm still like in this process financially of like it all working out. And God, just coming through for me and showing me. I just count it all such a blessing. How people have received me, how people have been patient, how people have given me grace. And here's the thing, people have given me grace. And so then that grace has to be poured out in something in someone else, right? So I'm feeling some things about that. God is speaking to me in that moment right now about grace. It's interesting. I'll talk about that later. Anyway, so grace, I've been shown grace. I've been shown tremendous grace, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to every single person that has poured out to me. I had a woman at church give me a $50 check the other day, yesterday, out of nowhere. I had my pastor's wife give me my rent money 1 month out of nowhere. She didn't have to do it. But she wanted to help. I had my dad and my mom and my grandma. Just all of these people helped me through one of the most difficult seasons of my life. And so I want to fast forward to some things here, because the area where Satan has really tried to tear me down is, how did I get here? How did I get 48 years old and I don't have a family and I'm struggling financially and my career is in shambles? Well, okay, so here's the thing with my career. And my cat. Okay, so God shut down the coaching, and it's totally fine. I'm really grateful. But God shut down the coaching, but opened up a door for me to begin to build websites. So when I was coaching, I would build my own websites. And I had to teach myself how to do that, because when I first started coaching, I had no capital to come in and hire somebody to build me a website. So it's like, you know what, I'm just going to build one. And I would stay up late learning how to do it. And I built plenty of websites over the years and funnels and all of that stuff. So in September of last year, I'm so sorry, you guys. My nose is running. I'm trying to keep up with it. So I'm really sorry. That's gross, but anyway, if you're still here, thank you. Okay. So I had a friend reach out to me and say, hey, would you mind building my website for me? She has a facial studio and she was opening up this facial studio. I was like, yeah, I'll build it. And it turned out so beautifully. And then a friend of hers was like, can you build a website for me? So I said, yeah. And then another friend, can you build a website for me? So I started building websites and I started to get website work. And it's been slow, right? It's not been like, oh my gosh, overwhelming, but it's just been kind of like, okay, well, this is what God is opening up. This is okay. I'll go with that. I'll take that next step, you know? And so the process has been manna from heaven every single day. And if you remember the story of the Israelites, when the Israelites went into the wilderness and they went into, and they were on their way to the promised land, they were 40 years in the wilderness. And for 40 years, God gave them manna every day. And that manna was meant to get them through one day. It wasn't meant to go into overflow. It wasn't like they couldn't keep it. They had to pick it for one day. They had to gather it for one day, eat on it for one day. The only time that they could ever have it longer than one day was to observe the Sabbath. And then it went right back to one day at a time. And so I was experiencing this. So I've been in kind of like this wilderness where I've been experiencing this one day at a time. And this like one moment at a time. And this is deepening my faith and my trust in the Lord. So I had to stop fighting this need to have it all the time, like in abundance beforehand. I had to stop fighting this need to see it first. I had to stop fighting that need out of fear, right? And I had to begin to go, okay, I can't see it, but I have to trust that it's coming. I have to trust that I'm taken care of over and over and over again. I had to die to that over and over and over again. And so the Lord would bring me this website work, and he would bring me surprises, and he would bring me answered prayers, and it would deepen my faith even more, right? So fast forward to at the end of last year. So we're January of 2024. At the end of last year, Satan was really dealing with me. And it was kind of like a last-ditch effort, I think. I mean, Satan's always going to deal with us, right? He's always going to try to get in. He's always going to try to cast doubt upon our lives, upon our walk, upon, these different things. He's always going to tempt, right? So at the end of last year, I was frustrated. I was frustrated about my finances. I was frustrated about where my life is. I'm like, how did I get here? Like, how did this happen, you know? And I was really discouraged. And I was like, is this ever going to change? And I was getting into that. Is this ever going to change? Has God forgotten me? And I was starting to doubt some of these things that God had instilled, that God had taught me and had been teaching me, and that I was doing really well with. And all of a sudden I'm like, but I'm forgotten, you know? And I was starting to get mad, and I was starting to get frustrated over my life not changing. And you know, and I was just like, oh my gosh, is it ever going to be my turn to get engaged to someone? Is it ever going to be my turn? Is it ever going to be my turn to have a thriving career that I love and that I'm super proud of and excited about and lit up by? Is it going to be when is it going to be my turn, you know? And I was having this pity party for myself. And, you know, and it lasted for several days, actually. I was really down on myself for several days going into the new year. It started on a Thursday, and on Sunday, I was like, okay, I'm going to church today, and I am not carrying this home. I am not carrying this burden home. This is not mine anymore. I don't have to live like this. I don't have to question. I don't have to think bad of myself because of where I'm at in my life. It is what it is, you know, and God can turn it around like this. And it's not even about that. It's not about how much money I have in the bank. It's not about any of those things. It is about the who I am on the inside of my heart, you know? So I decided, you know what, I'm going to go to church and I'm going to leave this there. I'm leaving this at the altar. I'm not taking it home. And I did just that. I was just like, I'm leaving it. And over the course of the next few days, and, you know, the next day was, I think that was New Year's Eve, the 31st, and then New Year's Day. And New Year's Day was wonderful. And I spent it with my family, and it was just super good. You know, and there was still remnants of that a little bit in my system. On Tuesday, January the 2nd, I had a woman reach out to me the week prior. I had a woman reach out to me and say, hey, can we set up a meeting about websites? So we set up this meeting, and we have this meeting on Tuesday, the 2nd of January. And the first thing that she says to me is, are you committed to websites being your thing? Like, is this what you're going to do? Is this what you're going to make money at? Is this what you're going to build? And I said, you know what? It's feeling like a yes. You know, at least for right now, yes, this is my path right now. And so she said, okay. She said, you know, I know a lot of people and I can make you really busy. I can send a lot of business your way. And she said, I charge like $1,700 for people to get access to my list. And they're super grateful because I open many doors for them. And because of the people I know, because of my network and all of this stuff. And so anyway, she was like, she had a conference that she and a friend of hers was creating for September, October of this year of 2024. And she wanted me to make the website for that. And we had already talked about possibly me being on the board of directors or the committee for planning it, because I'm great at planning events. So we had talked about me being on the committee for planning the event, and she's like, you know, not only that, you know, you're going to get exposure to all these people. She said, you know, if you could give us a discounted rate on your website building, you know, then we can promote you to that many more people and blah, blah, blah. And I'm, you know, when it comes to that kind of thing, I don't mind doing that. Like if there's going to be something on the back end, you know, I don't mind up front, you know, giving a discount if it's going to be worth it. But it also has to be aligned, right? And I also am not going to work for free. So anyway, you know, we're talking and she's making all these promises, and she's like, you know, and you know, if you're on the committee, then you can, you know, reap the benefits of the back end money that we'll make. You know, when the conference wraps, you're going to get exposure to over 300 women, because there's going to be probably over 300 women coming to this conference. She's like, and then we're gonna keep doing this. Like, we're gonna have the first one's gonna be in Denver. We're gonna have one in Las Vegas. We're gonna have one in LA. It's gonna be like a big thing. And if you're our resident, like marketing and website and all of that, if you're gonna be that for us, you know, you're really gonna get a lot of exposure. So I'm like, wow, this is sounding really good. And all these promises, and I go back to this moment when Jesus, after 40 days and 40 nights of fasting, and he is in a weakened state, and Satan comes to him and says, I'll give you all of this land if you will bow down and worship me. And Jesus says to him, man cannot live by bread alone. And is like, basically, no, I'm not going to worship you. I mean, I know you want me to, but I'm not going to worship you. And so anyway, it was just interesting because then she starts to tell me about the conference. And she's like, okay, this is the friend that I'm doing this conference with. And I was like, okay. And so we get off the phone, and she's like, before we get off the phone, she's like, go and, look at the Facebook group and look at my friend who's, putting on the conference and all this stuff. So I do. I get off the phone and I go look at all this stuff. And her friend, who is the mastermind of this conference, wrote a book about worshiping crystals and crystals being the healer. And I was like, I can't be a part of this. Like, I cannot in any good conscience send women to this conference. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, I can't do this. I don't care what the promises are. I don't care how much business I'm going to get from this. I don't care about a $20,000 payout on the back end. Like, I cannot do this. So anyway, I texted her the next morning after I sat with this and prayed about it, and was like I just knew instantly. I was like, I can't do this. So I texted her the next morning and I said, hey, thank you so much for this opportunity, but I'm going to have to decline. I said, actually, I'll just read you the text. Here. Sorry, I'm so close to the camera. I'll just read you the text, okay, you guys, so that you can get a context of what I am saying. Okay, I said, I'm going to have to decline working on this project. I thank you so much for the invitation and opportunity, but I'm not aligned to it. I left New Age over the course of last year. I threw away my crystals, got rid of my tarot cards, burned every New Age book I had, and completely changed my life and turned to Jesus Christ. So being a part of a conference where New Age philosophy would be taught doesn't align to my core values anymore. I wish you well and know that you'll find the perfect fit for what you need. Thank you again. And I was like, okay. So I sent that text, and then I didn't hear from her, and I'm just like, what in the world? So I go to Facebook because I was like, maybe I need to message her from Facebook. I go to Facebook and realize that I'm blocked. And I was like, whoa, that's interesting. That's wild. I'm blocked. Anyway, you guys, the world is not going to accept you. When you give your life to Christ, the world's not going to accept you, and that's okay. We're not here to be accepted by the world. We're not here to please the world. We're here to do what's right by the Father and our Heavenly Father. And we're here to learn and to grow and to share Jesus with other people, whether that be through how we live and how we interact with people on a day-to-day basis, or what we say, or how we encourage, or whatever it is that God leads you to do, that the Lord leads you to do in your ministry. That's what we're here to do. And so anyway, over the course of the last year, especially, I have been made new. I am not even remotely close to the woman I started out 2023 being. I am not, and like, here's the thing, you guys. I was in the personal development space for years, and I'm thinking I'm getting transformation all the time. And I remember like going to Tony Robbins being like, is this going to be the one that transforms me? I remember always fighting with myself over not being good enough and not feeling good enough. And I'm like, is this going to be the event that transforms me so I feel good enough? Is this going to be the thing that shifts my perspective so I'm good enough and I can be successful and get there? And so anyway, all of that hamster wheel spinning and going after and chasing. And a really good friend of mine, actually the one that gave me the $50 yesterday out of the clear blue sky, she's a sign language interpreter. And the interpretation or the sign language for chasing is this, like this, So this is the person going forward, and chasing is like this. So chasing is in a circle. Isn't that interesting? How sign language even speaks almost more clearly than words do. That this is the sign for chasing. Spinning your wheels in a circle behind what it is that you think you want. And that's what I was doing for so many years. I was just doing this. I was this, just like this. And so anyway, over the course of the last year, I mean, God has just made me new. I have so much more peace. I have so much more joy. I have so much more, just like, so much more gratitude. Like, I feel like I'm a beautiful person on the inside. And that's what God does. God makes you a beautiful person on the inside. You can have all the outer beauty that you could ever want. There's so many things you can do for outer beauty. You can do makeup, you can do injections, you can do all kinds of things for outer beauty. But only God can create an inner beauty inside of you. And I'm so grateful that he went to work, and that so I want to give myself a little bit of credit here. I was like, I'm willing. Okay, God, I'm willing. And I think that that's what we have to be, is willing. We have to be willing to go, okay, God, make me new. And I'm willing to go on this journey, as hard as it may be at times. Man, I'm telling you, it was not easy to make me new around my finances. It was not easy to make me new around trusting him with my spouse. It wasn't easy for him to make me new, because there was a lot of resistance inside of me that was like, no, I can do it myself. No, I can do it myself. No. And I had to go, no, I got to die to that. I'm not that woman anymore. I don't want to be that woman anymore. You know, and through the course of my study, you know, one of the things that I'm doing this year is every single day I'm writing 10 verses that speak to me. You know, and the other day I was in some fear, and I was praying about it. I was like, God, what are the 10 verses for me? And all the verses supported me in not being in fear. And that was like a really beautiful thing that the Lord showed me, so that I don't need to be in fear, because the Lord is always here and God will always show me. And so he just delivered those really beautiful verses. And so I want to deliver to you my verse this year of what God is... of what God is doing. Okay? This is Joel 2:25. And you know how, you guys, I was talking about, I was really having a hard time coming into this year, because I was like, how did I get here? How did I get 48 years old and I'm not married? I don't have kids. I'm broke, and like my life is, you know, seemingly in shambles as far as like the outer world is concerned. Like I don't have success, you know, in my business. I had to close my business, you know, I had to walk away from all of those things. Like, how did I get here? And I was really having a hard time with that. I was really being hard on myself, and I'm really being vulnerable with you guys. Like, it's hard to share, like, where, you know, because you want to present to the world that you've got it all together, right? You want to present to the world that, oh, I've got it all together. All my finances are in a row, and all, you know, like, I am perfect, and blah, 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 blah. And to share these sides of myself that aren't perfect and that are really, really, like, it's hard to share this stuff, you know, because then you got people that are going to judge and say, oh, what a loser or whatever, you know, and that, like, that's just my stuff, right? That's just my stuff. This is what the Lord spoke to me when I was in that period of temptation, in that period of doubting my life and myself, and really beating myself up and really having a hard time with myself. This is what the Lord spoke over me. He's in Joel 2:25, I will repay you for the years the locusts have eaten. You guys, those 15 years that I spent away in New Age, the locusts were eating my years. They ate my years of fertility. They ate my years of developing a career that was going to last, because I was building it on sand. I wasn't building it on a firm foundation, because I didn't have the Lord. So there wasn't a firm foundation to build on. It was on sand, all of it. That's why all of it had to go. And so 15 years, the locust ate of my life. The great locust and the young locust, the other locust and the locust swarm. In verse 26, you will have plenty to eat until you are full, and you will praise the name of the Lord your God, who has worked wonders for you. Never again will my people be shamed. And like one of the things that I had went through when I was coming to terms with my life is shame. And like feeling shame around where, like where I ended up. And my life is not over. God is not done with me. God is not done with you. And so now walks the journey of restoration. Now walks the journey of God restoring all the years that the locust ate. And what a beautiful promise. What a beautiful promise he gives us. There's so much beautiful promises, so many beautiful promises in his word. And so I dedicated 10 verses a day to what are your promises, God? Even if I repeat verses throughout the year, there's no way I can't not repeat it. I repeat verses, but it's what God shows me for that day. And that's what I write down in these verses. And what a gorgeous practice, And what a journey. What a journey. What a testimony of God's goodness. Oh my gosh, what a testimony of God's goodness. He will wreck you. He will wreck you with his goodness, where you're just crumbled on the floor, like in so much gratitude. And so, oh my gosh, so much gratitude. So much gratitude, you guys. While my life isn't perfect, I'm at so much peace. And do I have moments? Yeah, I have moments where I doubt. I have moments where I'm fearful. I do have my moments. And that's being human. That's being human. You get to be human. And wow, what a journey. So thank you so much for being here through my cry and through my sharing. Oh my gosh, I can't believe how vulnerably I shared. Anyway, I hope that this served you. I hope that it spoke to your heart. Just know that so here's the thing. If you're like on the edge where you're like, I don't know if I want to give up my new age stuff for Christ because I don't know if I want to go through that. Here's the thing I want to say to you is that it is worth it. It is 1,000 times worth it. I would not trade this journey with the Lord for another second in New Age. I would not trade it for another second in that world. I would not trade it for this. No way. There's no way I would ever go back. There is nothing in that world that is even a remote temptation for me. I have no desire for it whatsoever. God has cleansed me of that, has taken it away. I have no desire for that whatsoever. And so, if you're at that place where you're like wondering, gosh, is it going to be worth it? I promise you, it'll be 1,000 times worth it. And so just make the leap, and come and join us on Wednesday nights, because the Wednesday nights are Bible study where we're there to support you through this part of the journey. Like you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to try to figure it out alone. There are people here to help. And just know that what the Lord is going to teach you, be obedient in it, and let go of the resistance. Like for the longest time, the Lord was trying to show me that I could trust him with my finances. I could trust him with this partner and the spouse that I desire. I can trust him, but I can't make those things an idol. And so what I had done in the New Age world is I had made those things an idol. And one of the very first things that the Lord spoke to me when I left New Age is that there will be no other gods before me. You cannot worship other gods. Tarot cards, psychics, astrology, those are idol worship. Those are going to man and not God. Maybe there are some things that ring accurate in human design or in New Age astrology or whatever. But I promise you, when you consult those sorts of things, they will lead you on a path of destruction, because it's out of God's alignment, it's out of God's will, and it's out of God's timing. God is ordering your steps, not an astrologer, not a psychic, and they cannot tell you what God's steps are, because they do not have access to that information. God does. And God orders your steps. You don't need to go to those people, oh my gosh, for information. They're not going to lead you in the right direction. So, if you're struggling with what is next, God will lead you through it. If you've got a New Age business, you're gonna let go, and you're like, that's your identity. God will lead you to a new identity. He will make you new. God has led me to a completely new identity. He has made me new. And I wrestled with the old identity at the turn of this year. I wrestled with the old identity, and it was kind of like a last-ditch effort. I really feel that way. I really feel like it was kind of like a last-ditch effort that Satan was trying to get in my head and make me doubt and want to give up on myself, and make me come down on myself and beat myself up. And that was an old way of being for me. And that was a familiar old way of being. Like, I used to beat myself up all the time for not being perfect and for not having perfect skin and for all this stuff. I used to beat myself up all the time for not being, what I thought I should be. Financially successful, successful in my career or whatever. A boss babe. Oh my gosh, I don't have any desire to be a boss babe. I want to be supported. I want to be supported. I want to be supported by a husband. But here's the thing, I also will support him. And that's my desire, my dream, is to kind of like be that support to a really incredible human being, a really incredible man. That we do life together. Anyway, it's all worth it. God had some lessons for me. God had some lessons for me and taught me so many things this last year. It was such a beautiful year. Even though it was hard, it was such a beautiful year. And oh man, I'm so grateful. So you guys, I'm going to wrap this up. It's 52 minutes in. I had no idea that it was going to go this long. If you are still here, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for witnessing this process, this journey. If you were here before when I had all this other stuff up, and now you're witnessing this transformation, thank you so much for being here. I'm really grateful for you. Jesus loves you. Jesus wants to be in your heart. And you don't have to keep walking this other journey before, that you've walked before. And in order to let Jesus in your heart, it's really as simple as saying, Lord, I accept you as Jesus. I accept you as my Lord and Savior. I ask you to come into my heart. And you can say this prayer, like this is a prayer, okay? You can say this prayer. Lord Jesus, I accept you as my Lord and Savior. I accept that you are the Son of God, that you died on the cross for my sins. And I invite you in. I want you in my heart, and I want to live for you. And pray that in Jesus' name, amen. And then you have Jesus in your heart. And then when you have Jesus in your heart, then look for a church that is a supportive church that you can go to. And let me tell you, churches are humans too. So you may find churches, and you may find really ugly people inside of churches. They have a tendency to attract really hurt people. And hurt people hurt people. The people that you find inside of churches are not going to be perfect. So please don't expect that. Go to church to give. Go to church to hear from the Lord. Go to church to be a part of a body of imperfect people doing their best, and really just see it that way. And if you go to a church where there's a whole lot of imperfect people, just find a new one. Find a new one. You don't have to write off the church because you found a group of people that were imperfect and they were living in it and they were embedded in it. You don't have to write it off. It's not the example of the church, of the whole church. it's just that church, right? And there's many out there, right? So just know that God will guide you, and then get baptized. If you want to get baptized, I was baptized as a child, so I didn't get rebaptized. I was baptized as a child, so I haven't felt the Lord say you need to get rebaptized. I haven't felt that, so I'm not doing that. But if you're new to Christianity, then you want to get baptized, and you want to get a Bible. So reach out to me if you want a Bible. Reach out to me. That can be my ministry. I can send you a Bible. And let me think, anything else? You're beautiful in God's eyes, and he loves you. And